welcome back. Thank you for the new subscribers to my channel. I'm glad to see you all. I'm glad to know that you all are rocking with that last video that I posted. And I kind of wanted to stick to this kind of theme of love and healing and just about society and how to overcome it while being in it and not being just like absorbed by the culture that we are living in as far as social media and things like that, not to get trapped into this culture. So I know a lot of times it is so difficult to kind of keep your head above water because you're focused on too many things, and that's one of the things that social media does is like it keeps you trapped. But um as we know by the title, we're going to talk about just insecurities and how that we're just basically passing around insecurities and trauma and just labeling it as fun, basically, because that is what majority of the time we have been doing. We have been taught to label that stuff as fun because we have the powers that be, I like to call them. They capitalize off that. They see where we are hurting the most, and I've made plenty of videos on this. But when you are a person, if you're like me, probably you are because you're watching, so that means twin. But if you're a person who is like me, you want somebody who is equal to you, right? Who has the same mindset. A little, some things can be different. So everything doesn't have to be the exact same, but some things, they have to be the same, right? They have to be the same. And we are not dating or even communicating and being in communion with people who fit us, right? That's because we don't know who we are at our core. And once again, I am an advocate for knowing who you are at your core. Know who you are. Because if you know who you are not easily to be controlled, manipulated, or taken advantage of because you know who you are. So when something does not align with your soul, you are like, no. And a lot of the times we don't know who we are because we've been fed who we are. We've been taught by society that this is who we are. We like crash out culture. We like BBL culture and things like this because of the simple fact that society has told us this is what we want. We want to live in this world just full of lust and full of this idea and this mentality of, hey, we have an abundance of things while still not having an abundance of things. They're trying to tell us that it is such a free for all out there, but still only telling us, but that only exists for that. So it's a free for all for you having a relationship and going with somebody and being with somebody, and you could just dismiss them and then go to the next person and go to this person and all this stuff like this. But it's not an abundance of money. So you have to keep striving and working so hard to get the money. But you don't have to do that for this and the food and all of these things. So you overeat, you overindulge, and you're just really an insecure little being who was never loved, valued, cared for, or adored in all the right places. So now you cling on to any and everything that comes your way that shows you a little validation, that makes you feel a little bit of good. So you cling on to the food because it feels so good and it warms your tummy and your heart and it feels so good. The same thing what happens with, you know, sex, and you cling on to that and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels so good, so I want to keep having more because it is a drug, because you have become so addicted to not just the dopamine, because we love to talk about, dopamine addiction, but because you are hurt on the inside, so you are craving the gentleness of your parents. And because you didn't get that as a kid, you are clinging to any and everything that feels like that, and it's crack. It's your crack. It is your crack. Sorry, but it is. And a lot of the things that they put out there, they make it so that it can be that. They make it so that it can be so addicting and so just easy to come to, where you're not actually healing. And I will make another video about that, but you're not actually healing. You're just capitalizing off of all the stuff that they're putting out there for you to capitalize off of, because they're capitalizing off of you, your traumas, your pain, your hurt, and now you're just going ahead and you're passing it on. So at the end of the day, we're just constantly just like stuck in this cycle, in this loop, and we're trying to get out of it, and it just feels like it's a never ending maze. It's a never ending cycle of I heal, I feel good, people come back into my life, and then I feel bad, and then I heal, and then I do, like, we keep going back into that cycle because you're not officially letting it go. You're not officially letting go of the traumas, the pains, the hurts. You're not healing, okay? You're not healing. Maybe we won't get into it in this video. Maybe I'm gonna make it this video that I'll talk about it, because we're just passing around insecurities and traumas and hurt and just passing it to other people. And that's just making them do that, and we're keep attracting the same beings because we're not getting to the core of who it is and what it is that we truly, truly want. There has been conversations that I have had with people, and I'm like, what is it that you're really wanting in life? And people don't know that. So you're chasing this money, and you think you want the money, the fame, the notoriety. And I'm like, but you don't really know what you want. And I can see that you don't know what you want because of the simple fact that you're chasing. Chasing means things are running away from you. And if you truly knew what you wanted, you wouldn't chase it, because it will be right there for you to grab it. And we get into relationships, we get into situationships, and we're just re-traumatizing people because, once again, like I said, we didn't heal the little parts of us that needed to be healed. So we're just jumping into things, and we don't understand what relationships are meant to do. Relationships are meant to teach us. Any type of connection that we have, the random people who show up in our lives, show us how we want to exist in life. Am I going to be mean to this person? Am I going to be caring? Am I going to be kind? Anytime that you encounter somebody, especially the people who you're having these deep connections with, those are the perfect people to show you who you want to show up as in this life, or the things that you need to heal and let go of. A lot of the times, and it was this one moment earlier today, because I end up seeing two people, from my past, and we're still cool and we're doing this, and I was thinking, and I was like, I don't connect with them the same. And at one point, I was just so, like, in love with them. And I'm like, oh, my God, you're the perfect person. A lot of people are, like, resurfacing back into my life. And I'm just like, I see that you're going to hinder me from growth. And a lot of people in my life, I just saw that, like, you hinder me from growth. You don't just bring me peace, positivity, love, and light. You bring me the traumas that I had. And now I can sit here and I can see that clear as day, that, like, oh, this is still showing up in my life. I need to heal these traumas, because all you're doing is bringing me the traumas. All you're doing is bringing me your insecurities that you have. And then you mask it, because at first glance, it feels so glimmer and light. And now it's not that. It's not that. And so we're not actually healing. We're just sitting here and pushing these things off. We like the show of it, and we want to stay in this crash out culture and just be these unhealed beings, because YOLO, right? We are here. We need to be in the world, in of it, and that's the wrong thing. And a lot of people say, like, I'm gonna have my cake and eat it too, and I'm like, that is not what you're supposed to do. But it's not saying that you can't enjoy life, but you don't know what actually enjoying life is, because you've only seen it one way. You've only seen it the toxic way. You've only seen it in the dark. So the dark makes it look like, yeah, we gonna have some fun over here. The ego is gonna make it look like we have some fun over here, but you still hurting. You're still hurting. You're still in pain. And that is because you didn't get to the meat of it, right? Even though I am plant-based, you didn't get to that meat of it. You didn't get to that mushroom of it, okay? You didn't go to that dark space, heal from that dark space, and then come out of it and become love and light, because you get to this point where you start healing. And in this point where everybody would know in their healing process, you're going to have to meet everything head on, right? So when you get to this point, you're love and light, you meet the stuff head on that you've been dealing with. A lot of us go back into that same cycle. We react back to that environment instead of allowing us to sit there and be like, this is teaching me something. This is teaching me how to let go and not to settle for this, but we're settling. A lot of us are just settling, and that's going to be another video. I love when I get ideas about videos, but I'm always talking about that, about settling and not settling and things like that. But, like, I really want that to come and, like, get it in our heads that, like, we don't need to settle anymore. So we're just honestly passing around these insecurities, and all of these things, and we're labeling as love. We're like, oh yeah, well, if somebody crashing out, I want my person to crash out. And I remember when we thought people was crazy, that's because we're listening and we're not judging anymore. So now we don't call out stuff that's crazy. That's crazy. You don't want nobody to crash out over you. That does not mean that they love you. That just means that they're insecure. And it was a video once again that I was watching. It was talking about how the celebrity didn't want her, but like her boyfriend, to be around nobody that he talked to, he liked her picture or anything like that. And I was like, that's an insecurity. And we don't want to heal these insecurities. We want to say them as, no, because as my man, as my woman, no, that is an insecurity. You're insecure. If your man can't have female friends off of you feeling like something is going to, that's an insecurity. You need to heal that. That's not something that you're saying, well, no, that is an insecurity. You need to heal that. Regardless, if you do any of that, if you shelter that person, they're going to feel caged in. That is what all of our problems ever were. We feel caged in. And if we feel caged in because we are remotely, we're all free. And we have the free will to do whatever it is that we want to do. That's why we came here and incarnated in this life. So if you take away somebody's freedom, that's going to cause them to rebel. So you have a lot of people out here in society rebelling against what was right, what was wrong, because we've been locked in cages for so long. You know, we grew up having to put on this mask that now we don't know who we truly are. And we're not trying to know who we truly are because society is pushing this message subconsciously that this is who you are, this is who you are. So you don't know that. So you're not trying to heal that. Everybody makes it seem like that's love, to be insecure and to crash out about anybody. That's not love. That is the same type of craziness that we will see in a, DV relationship. But we don't want to talk about that, right? We don't want to discuss that. That crashing out is not emotional stability. That is going to be another video. Just make these marks. I have to say that so that way I put it in my head that I have to make this video about this. But we want to sit here and talk about the craziness and the psychoness that's going on and labeling as love when it's insecurities and trauma. We're just traumatizing people. So you go into this relationship and you crashing out, and that person because you don't know what healthy love looks like, and you're trying to pass this on. In friendships, we don't know what healthy friendships look like because our friendships wasn't healthy, because the first form of friendships was the people in the household, was families, was your mother, your siblings, things like that. And our families was toxic and talking about us and disregarding our feelings and our emotions. And even though we still love them and we still care about them and we want the best for them and things like that, it doesn't diminish the fact that it hurts. So when things hurt you, especially as a kid, your job as the adult you or as the older you is to go back to that kid and tell that kid in the kid terminology, not from your healed space or where you know in your mind. It's going back to that little kid and saying you didn't deserve that. That you should not have had to deal with that. So I'm going to love you for it, and I'm not going to put you in these situations, but we are so addicted. Our brains, our bodies are programmed to be in things that are, what is the word? What is the word? Is it's not remembrance. It's not a continuation. It is, when I lose words, I be so mad. We go into these cycles. We are so programmed. Our bodies are programmed to keep the same cycles, to go to the things that hurt us or the things that we remember, because we're so used to being in those things that our bodies are like, okay, let me go over here because this is something I can predict. Our ego is like, yeah, we could go ahead. We can go to something that we're used to. That's where we need to go. We need to go something that we remember. Because over here, I don't know nothing about that. And I can't protect you over here, but over here, I can protect you because I know that this is what it is. And I'm still looking for the word. The word starts with a C and I cannot get it out. But we are constantly going back into these cycles and just re-traumatizing people. So nobody heals. Everybody is okay with it. And it's just seeing younger generations, not younger generations, seeing older generations basically try to adapt to this lifestyle when they had the better, I don't want, say the better, but, every generation had their own issues, but it was just like where we had the 90s where it was so much love, it was so much patience and kindness. Yes, it still had its issues, I'm not disregarding that, but what we saw was a different type of love, and everybody can relate to that 90s love, that what we saw on the TV, what we saw for us was different. And it was just something that was soft and sensual, and it wasn't just lust, it wasn't just, oh yeah, we just finna do it. No, it was something that was really touching to the soul. People got to know you here on the inside versus just here. Everybody wasn't trying to be this person or this person. Everybody was being their own expression of what it means to be love and light. And that was something that was beautiful. That was something that we all wanted. We like to listen to the music of it, but at the end of the day, we don't want to actually go into that level of emotional stability, of healing our traumas, of being alone for a time period before we have to. I get it. We have our vices. We have those dark nights where we go back into the dark and we say, "Ooh, I need to go back. I need to get something. I left my shoes." No. You need to stay in the light and stay there. Once you healed from that darkness, you don't got to keep going back there to do that. But we're not calling people out on this stuff. We just saying that, hey, basically you could just rock out the way you want to rock out. And if that's how you feel like you need to rock out, no. We have to start taking the accountability, but we have to start putting the responsibility on people to heal. It's not putting that down their throat. All it's saying is like, we need to start speaking up. We need to start being like, hey, no, it's not okay. It's not okay for you to be out here constantly being in relationships and traumatizing women or traumatizing men. It's not actually okay, because you're traumatizing yourself too. You're hurting yourself. That's not okay. Now, if you want to do that, I'm not going to say that you're a bad person for it, and I'm not going to judge you for it, but I'm just going to say that it's not okay. And there is a better route for you to go. So, yeah, I think that's all I had. It kind of turned into a little rant, and I didn't know. But let's actually get to that stage of healing and not just re-traumatizing everybody, because everybody just traumatizing. And y'all get to me, and I'm the love light person who understands and understands my emotions and your emotions and everything like that. But when y'all get to me, I'm tired. I'm exhausted, because I can see that you're not emotionally where you need to be. You have all these traumas that you're just using big words with because you went on Instagram, but you didn't actually do the work. So no. So I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.